diddly dandy there, chums! 'Tis I, Captain of the Stews, and today, chums, for you guys, in the viewerverse, I've got a video for the Yes I Do. So, inside of No Man's Sky, something that keeps players coming back is player-created content, i.e. bases people are making. But Hazel Mackenzie spoke about this way before the Foundation's update.
So, in terms of why we are using procedural content, there's the really obvious things like the scale of our world. Even with a really massive team, no one can populate that with hand-edited content. But as a small team, then we definitely don't stand a chance. But there's also other reasons why we choose to take this approach. We want the outputs to be unexpected, not just for gamers playing the game, but for us as a team. We don't want everything to be mapped out and certain. We want it to be interesting and different as you're playing through. And we want people, like, this sounds like a buzzword, but we genuinely want people to have individual different experiences. This shouldn't be a game that you play through like a film. It should be a game where you have your own stories, you can tell your friends about those stories, and they've had something different happen. And for us, routes to produce that can quite often involve player interaction or alternatively user-generated content, but we want to create a game world that inherently allows those situations to come about, and that's why prop gen and not knowing all the rules and not knowing how everything's going to play out is really important.
So, what could be player-driven content inside of the verse that we have now, people in the viewerverse? If you've got ideas, start to typing them into the comments section. So yes, player-driven content. So at the moment we've got base building type stuff, haven't we? But not only just player-driven content, I'm thinking about player-driven sort of experience as well, like a group collective or end game type stuff, opening up to the individuals that have done pretty much everything in game currently. So there's going to be a little bit of extra in there. Yeah, so here we go. So first off, people, I'm thinking now that we've got these freighter spaces, and they're freaking sublime, aren't they? They've got loads more to doing here. It would be nice if we had like a mini sort of Nexus cube for missions that we can hit up and run them jointly from our actual freighter in a fire team. And maybe have a new sort of teleporter that's got individual teleporter points on it, so we can actually teleport down to services like in away missions, like in Star Trek. So yeah, hit on up, a mission sort of thing here. It can show the system with the amount of planets, teleport down, run your freaking mission, teleport back to your freighter. Could be cool. Now, this next idea I've had some time ago, and I've done a video on it, called player-driven chests. So basically, it's a chest that you can bury in the ground. You can see here that I've got the coordinates on the screen for where I'm going to be putting this chest, which is quite sort of important, but we'll get to that in a moment as to why. But you just use your terrain manipulator, manipulate it out, and then you've got a chest that you can place in here, and then you can place items inside of said chest. Now, I'm thinking maybe a stack of something, like a full max stack of something, or maybe have 3 different things that you can put in there. So you could put in a rare sort of bone collection, or a stack of activated idiom, or just 3 things from your actual inventory space, like an expanded cargo mini sort of chest. And then once you've got it where you want it to be, you can just use your terrain manipulator and fill it back in, and then you can give people gnarly little treasure hunts. So inside of your base, for example, those coordinates that we took note of earlier, people, I've put them on the wall. So yeah, people can go, oh, that's a minus 3.77 and a minus 164.87, and they can run outside, find that place on the actual planet, go there, find your lovely chest, dig it up, and get themselves a shed load of stuff. So people visiting your bases have got a little extra additional puzzle to go and do. How freaking epic would that be? So yes, this one could be a bit of a toughie to implement, but I'm thinking some sort of expeditions board that you can have in your base or in your freighter, that when people come and visit they can hit on up and they can run your own player-driven expedition, and perhaps you could tie your own little mini snippets of lore to some of these badges that pop up with a bit of story to say what they're about, and then you could set sort of prizes in there, things that you've actually gathered inside a verse and place behind each of these. I mean, it'd probably just be maybe 1 or 2 sort of phases rather than having all of the branch here, but you know, it could be pretty darn cool to hit on up little mini expeditions that players have created, and I think it could add in an extra sort of window of space for for people to do that have done pretty much everything. But then, you know, the prizes have to be quite limited, don't they? So that one needs a bit of work, and another one that might need a bit of work is ship building. Now I have put in a video before on ship customization and how it could be implemented in a way that it won't upset ship hunters. So yeah, maybe watch that video, but what I'm thinking is once you've got a parts base built up from scrapping ships and built up your parts catalogue, is you come to an archive, they've got these freaking cranes here. Maybe you interact with this terminal over here, you can build out a ship that's limited to your own base. I'm using an archive here as just an example, but this crane could be at one of your bases and you could have a certain landing pad, a showcase landing pad for the ship that you've built, your custom ship you've built, and people can come here and purchase it. That'd be really handy dandy if you want to fly around in a squadron with your mates so they can pick up the same ship as you, and maybe they pay you in nanites or quicksilver or something, and maybe you get some of that revenue come into your revenue stream from selling versions of that ship. Now the ships they buy, they might be a C class and they have to upgrade them themselves, or maybe if they pay extra they can get an exact copy and get the S class. And when it comes to base building, I think if you actually hit on up another player's base, you should get more of a menu to sign a guest book and then maybe leave a link to one of your bases that they can hit and automatically teleport to so they can go and visit one of your bases in return favour. Another thing that I would like to see is an actual additional visor implementation inside of your multi-tool or something. So when you go into buildings and you find an object you don't got, if you scan it, it gives you a blueprint that you can then get parts for your base for building. So it's like all these sort of things behind the Atlas Pass free doors. I've not got this for building my base, but maybe I could scan it and it adds a blueprint, and then I go to my blueprint analyzer and it tells me how many nanites or quicksilver I need to actually make those base parts. I would love those Audi light rings. You can make them if you use free, but it'd be nice to have all three intricately woven together like that, or even these little plant pots. Heck yes, that'd be nice. Or even some of that stuff that's in the centre bit. I mean, it could scan it all at once. Oh, that's a bit weird. Looks like I can actually frickin' scan that rock on a station. Oh, I'm gonna give it a frickin' go. I can! I'm bloody scanning a rock on the station, people. That's a frickin' oddity. Right, I've never done that before. How bizarre is that? That's really odd. Okay, right, brilliant. Oh, looks like I can interact with this leaf as well. Get myself some carbon. Don't mind if I do. Yes, people, I don't know what I'm going to do with this leaf. Sneaky, but yes, carbon. Thank you very much. But that is odd. Scan and rock. Back to the old archives, and we've also got this guy sitting in the station. He does fudging nothing, but yes, he's a guild envoy apparently. And guilds in, for fudge's sake. This guy could be the Explorers Guild agent as standard, I suppose, couldn't he really? But it'd be nice if you could actually align ourselves to one of the 3 different guilds. And what am I on about when I say aligning yourselves to different guilds? So yeah, if you go into milestones, I'm in the wrong freaking menu, milestones, but we go back to that other one in a moment. So we've got the Merchants Guild, we've got the Mercenaries Guild, and then we've got the Explorers Guild at the bottom there, people. Now, it's pretty odd. You've got all these pidgets and everything on the screen, but they don't really mean anything. It's like level 2. Is that the highest level it goes to? That's fudging, who knows? You know? It hasn't gone up from level 2. I can only imagine it's level 2, but all the little dots underneath don't light up. You've got no indication of how far into these guilds you've got or what progress you've made, apart from you get some gold badges. So anyway, the Explorers Guild, I think they could tie it into this, which is the local information register. Okay, now at the actual archives itself, you've got this bit of kit here. Excuse me, Mr. Viking, can I get to the machine? No? What? You was here first. Yeah, I know you was, but I'm doing a bloody video. Fudging heck. Viking, they get so angry. Right? Anyhow, you go into this thing, and yeah, when you go to print charts on it, there's local information repository. So you've got the register and the repository, link them to freaking gather, and the more you scan, the more you unlock for the Explorers Guild, you know, because it's an Explorer's Guide. Why the fudge not? Link them together, you go see your guild envoy, and depending on how much you've scanned on planets, maybe when you go to that machine, it gives you an even better map. This guy here, okay, look at all the boards behind him. It looks like he's some sort of bounties mission agent. He'll be perfect for the Mercenaries Guild, wouldn't he? You go to see him and maybe he gives you some hollow pucks and says, you know, these are all the people, these are all the bounties you need to go and find inside of this galaxy. And he gives you some real rare ones. You know, you bring them back, dead or alive or whatever. You know, I don't know how you're going to bring them back alive, but, you know, you maybe shoot them down, go to a crash ship and pick them up and bring them back. Who knows? But yeah, I would love to have more in-depth bounty missions that actually give you a little bit of a synopsis on what the freaking Git did, you know? A bit like Red Dead. That'd be cool. I mean, they've got loads of procedural text in this. Just apply it to some freaking bad guys. Right, so the last guy is the Merchants Guild. So I've got a little NPC in here. Well, actually, I haven't. He's disappeared. But this little guy here. Hello there, Tie Leaf. Where did you go, little Tie Leaf? He actually says he went into the realm of glass. He says, that's all I see is the realm of glass, which is a bit freaking weird. But anyway, we'll just pass over that for a second, because that's just thrown me a freaking curveball. Anyhows, yeah. So, Merchants Guild, maybe he says, look, I need these rare items. Can you please go to a cadmium system? Maybe pick me up some storm crystals from a stormy planet. Or maybe get me some activated cadmium or some idiom or whatever. Rare resources, you have to get them for him and bring them back here. Maybe some of it could be a Megion or some of the stuff from yesteryear. You know, so you really got to explore for it and bring it back for him. Or even just do a smuggling run, grab stuff and bring it back here. Now, when you've done all these sort of guildy missions, maybe speaking back to them, maybe they give you a trinket that you can turn into here. So you go back to an archive, you place it into one of these, and it gives you something awesome. So in this case, here you go, I'm just going to stick this in as a sort of rough, guidey type thing as a placeholder. Yes, there you go, have the glassy grain, whatever. But look what it gave me. Now read the text on that. It almost sounds like it's a new sort of texture for your multi-tool or for a ship or maybe for one of your armour parts. So yeah, that one's jewel encrusted. It's bejazzling jewels. Imagine that. You apply it and you get all these freaking jewels all over. You look really regal and stuff. That'd be freaking excellent. Yeah, there could just be a little extra box on side. Your multi-tool, apply skin texture, you hit that up and boom, done. You've got a new skin for your multi-tool. Well done you. So yeah, it gives people endgame stuff to do from their guild envoys, and maybe they could add in new textures and new sort of skins for things on a regular sort of basis, almost like they do with the Quicksilver stuff. All cosmetic shite, you know what I mean? But at least it's something. It's faction based. It gives you sort of more roles to do, and you can align yourself to whichever faction you like the actual skins of a little bit more, so people know what sort of faction you're in. I think that's a freaking mind-blowing idea. Okay, well, that little Geeky guy, he just said that he was in the world of glass. That brings me on to the next thing. We've been getting these sort of exotic biomes appearing for some time. Now, on these exotic biomes, and also on the infested planets, you're going to come across, or nest planets, whatever you want to call them, these boundary failures. Now, at the moment, they do fudge in nothing apart from give you a little bit of lore. They're nicely animated, they're beautiful, they've been there since the dawn of frickin' time. Even in some of the E3 tech demos, these things were there, but they haven't really got any rhyme or reason. They're such a giant mega structure. They've even got a panel that you interact with, and it's a boundary failure. So this is keeping the boundaries between maybe the world of glass or the void, in my opinion, intact, but they're failing. So, you know, when are we going to be able to go into there, you know? And they're that big, you can actually fly your ship through it. So here you go, I've got my ship right here. I've purposely aimed it at the dang thing. And it's big enough to fly through a hauler or even one of those larger winged explorers. And they haven't got, yeah, there's loads of room. Here you go, I fly through and I'll go into camera mode and just show you just how much room there is in this thing. So maybe you have to park your ship, hit it up, get back in your ship and fly through it. Boom! You're into the realm of glass, or you're into the void. And look, there's bags of room. You can fly one of those frickin' solar sail ships through that blinking thing. Heck yes, you could. So yeah, maybe they just need to get rid of that crossbar on it though, because that's a little bit of a hindrance. But you see what I mean though? And inside of these abandoned systems of space, where you find these boundary failures more often than not, you've got these abandoned stations. I mean, we've got pirate stations, we've got normal stations. These ones, they don't serve no rhyme or reason right now. But look at the screen, it says welcome home. So I'm wondering whether we might be able to take ownership of these stations at some stage, maybe terraform the planets here. Because when you look at the planets themselves, they've got nothing interesting about them whatsoever, apart from you find more of these boundary failures in this system, these systems I should say. But there's no fauna here, there's no NPCs here, it's a completely barren dead system. So also I'm thinking you get to see a lot more nested planets in these sort of systems, or at least I have. I mean, I've got a couple of nested systems that do have fauna and not in abandoned systems, but I'm wondering whether we've got something called void creep. So we're getting the void coming into our own sort of iteration and simulation here, people. And I'm wondering if one day we might actually be able to cleanse these systems and start pushing this sort of infestation back. So maybe, I mean, we're in a simulation, aren't we? Now, if you think about a computer and you've got yourself a worm on your computer or a virus, you know, it's infested with a virus. Well, these are called infested planets or nest planets, and they've actually got frickin' worms on, giant ones that leap out the frickin' ground. But not only that, these nest planets now actually have nests on them. They've also got whispering eggs on them. So yeah, they're actually birthing in some sort of weird sort of corruption, monstrosities that I think is a virus. In computer terms, this is like a computer virus being realised inside of our iteration, and I'm wondering whether us as travellers might have to unite at some stage and start fighting this like as an antivirus. So maybe we might get to clansy sort of planets and put them back to just being a normal lush rather than being a nested one. Maybe you have to take out so many of those worm nests and do something else. Maybe take on a boss on these planets and then they turn back to normal. And maybe that's why Hello Games have left the Myth Beacon inside of game. If you don't know what I mean by the Myth Beacon, it was used to bring into iteration the Normandy, which was like crossing the void or whatever. Well, here's the Myth Beacon here, and you can read the text on that, and it says looking up fluxes for Nada and Polo. So maybe it is just looking up these corrupted areas and pushing it back. Maybe they might tie the Myth Beacon in with doing the Quicksilver mission. Maybe you pick up the Quicksilver mission, but also slot in a Myth Beacon, and maybe it boosts your rewards or something. I don't know. But we've also got Void Egg on the screen there. So this whole thing with playing with us, with the Void and the Realm of Glass, with different bits of lore. I mean, even that Gek that I spoke to earlier frickin' mentioned it. It's always been hinted at us, and I'm wondering whether that might come into iteration in a bigger way in future. Also, we've got all these NPCs just loitering the frickin' Nexus. You talk to them, they give you one-liners. They're not really that interesting, but they're beautifully crafted NPCs. They look interesting, but what they say is not interesting. There's no depth to them whatsoever. Where'd they come from? You know, it's like they just turned up on a rubber dinghy on our frickin' shores one day, people. It's an oddity, isn't it? Give them backstories. Give them some unique missions for us to run. And what's with this freaking kiosk? It's got 2 arrows pointing down, red and blue flag. It's almost like we could split off in teams and maybe have 2 different teams running a Quicksilver mission at the same time, and the first back gets bigger rewards or something. I don't know, but they don't do anything right now, but it could. I would like to see the Quicksilver missions overhauled and NPCs with backstory missions. Heck yes, people. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye again. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, please hit a like and a subscribe. And I'd like to say a massive, great big thank you to all of my backers over on Patreon and over on YouTube membership. Thanking you, backers. And if you want to support this channel, just don't skip the adverts. That throws revenue down my avenue. Or yeah, just stay with Captain Steve that little bit longer and hit something on this screen. There's merch here now too.